Wow, how can I be so damn stupid? Panels on backwards. Or not backwards, cords coming out of the wrong end. It's all part of the fun. In this video, I want to build a workshop air cleaner, just a simple one, but I want it to be a little bit more sophisticated than the usual type that you see, which is just a box fan with an air cleaner, duct taped onto it or bungee corded onto it. I want this to be more of a kind of a professional thing. I've got a high quality fan here, which is quite large and moves a lot of air. And I've already gotten the jump on the project by adding this styrofoam around the edge, which will act as a divider for the thing, first of all, and also a little bit of vibration damping. I worked out a pretty detailed plan in SketchUp, and I made a cut list, and that's what I want to get started on first. But before I do that, I want to talk about the filters that I've got. Normally you see a 20 by 20 for this type of thing. I went to my local place to buy this stuff, and they didn't have a really good selection of 20 by 20 filters. They had a lot of 16 by 25 filters. So I got this one here. This is reusable. You can wash this out and it'll be as good as new. Then I've got 3 of these cheaper ones, and what they will do is the first one will pre-filter the air before it hits this filter, and then the other one will be on the outside so that the entire fan unit is closed with filters. Dust can't settle in the inside. And plus the second filter will catch maybe some of the stuff that the first 2 don't get. Other than the fan and the filters, the entire project's going to be made from 1/2-inch plywood. And I get it out of my lumber rack here. This piece is 24 inches wide and 96 inches long, and it will do the whole thing. The 2 sides that I need are 25.5. I'm going to cut those roughly to 26 inches. Just drawing a line with my finger like that, tape, and then cut it with my battery saw. I'm not overly concerned about the edge being straight because I'll trim those straight on the miter saw after. The next one is 22, and I'm just going to cut that roughly to 23. The last one is 24.5, and I can cut that on my table saw because the piece is short enough now to manage. Now from that piece that's 24.5, I've got to cut strips that are 3 1/4, 2 1/2, and 1 7/8. From the piece that's 22 inches long, I've got to cut one piece that's 11 1/8 and another piece that's 6 inches wide. And I need to cut what's left over into fillers. And then back to the first piece that I cut off rough, I'll trim it to length on the table saw. And then cut it into 2 pieces for the sides that are 11 and 1/8 inch wide. That's all the plywood parts cut. I need to make a bunch of strips. You can see them here in orange. And they hold the filters in place. Those are 1/2 inch thick and 5/8 of an inch wide. I need, how many? I need 10 that are 25 inches long, and I need 10 that are 14 3/4 inches long. And I think I can get all of them out of this single piece of 2 by 10 that's 26 inches long. Okay, I've got all the strips cut. I got more than enough. That's the strategy with this kind of thing. You really want to, you know, it's cheap material anyway, so go ahead and cut more than you actually need. That way you can be selective and pick out the good stuff. This can go in the garbage. So like I say, I need 10 of the longer ones. These are already cut to the right length for the longer ones, so I'll just pick out 10 of the best looking ones. Well, what I mean by best looking are the ones without big knots like that, which will crack in half. Even though it really doesn't matter because I'm going to be nailing and gluing these on, it's always better to avoid that kind of thing if you can help it. And I've got the extras to do that. Now out of what's left, I got to pick out 10 that I can get 14 3/4 inches out of. Now that I've got all the parts cut out, I can start putting it together. I'm going to start with these L-shaped brackets right here. And I've got the parts laid out. I just need to pay attention to the orientation to make sure they go together correctly. I've got the 4 L-shaped brackets put together. Next, I want to put on the long strips that I cut out earlier. These hold in the filters, and 2 go on parts B1 and B2. A little bit of glue on here, and then I'm just going to use 3/4 inch brads to hold it in. Then I'll do the same on the other one, lining that up with the outside edge. That leaves 1 inch between the strips, just the right amount for the filter to fit in and slide freely. Now that I've got these parts put together, I need to figure out the real length of the top and the bottom. The top, as shown in the plans, is counting on the plywood being 1/2 inch exactly. Normally plywood is not 1/2 inch exactly, it's less. So I put these 2 side pieces together and I put one of the shorter strips in between to give me the correct spacing, and I'll measure from outside to outside, and I can see that I've got 21 and just a little bit more than 7/8. So I'll set my table saw to that width and recut those pieces. Now that I've got the top and bottom cut to length, I can attach them to the angle pieces, starting with the wider ones here. Put some glue on, get the panel in place, and drive in a few 1.25 brads. Now with that done, I'm going to add the short strips that go on the end here. I'm just going to nail those through the long strips in, again with 1.25 inch brad. Now I'll do the same on the top, and again I'll use glue and 3/4 inch brads. Next I can get these 2 filler pieces on that go on the ends here. Once again though, I had to cut these a little bit shorter, just like I did with the top and bottom. Now I can do the same with the other ones, the smaller ones. Get some glue on here and fasten them in with 1.25 inch brads. Now the hardest part of the assembly is done. I guess you could say I'm in the home stretch. I've got my fan here. I've taken the grill off the front here, mainly because I want access to it later. You've seen in a recent video how fans periodically need lubrication and cleaning. I want to be able to take out the front filter and reach the fan blade, undo it. I'll be able to take it out through this hole after I take the nut off. I'm just going to get some silicone on the styrofoam and leave it to set overnight. It's the next day I gave the glue overnight to dry. I also tried the fan before I go any further. I don't want any surprises at this point. I'm going to get some construction adhesive on the edge of the foam here before I put on the panel, just to hold that in place. And then I'm going to get some regular woodworking glue along the edges here, and then attach the panel with 1.25 inch brads. The cord comes through the other side, and I've cut a small notch in the panel here to accommodate that. Just going to get the panel in place and drive in some 1.25 inch brads. While the air cleaner is all finished now, I added these cleats to the top and bottom to mount it on the wall. There are other options for mounting this. It can hang from the ceiling. I can't hang anything from the ceiling here. It'll interfere with my camera setup. So I'm gonna screw it to the wall. I've got a leg set up over here to rest the unit up on. And I've cut a notch. It's a little bit awkward. This should be done with two people. It'd be a lot easier. I cut a notch in the bottom cleat for the cord. I've also made marks on the wall here that the edge of it needs to line up with, and then I can drive the screws. Now that the air cleaner is installed, I can get the filters put in. I've already turned the fan on so that when it plugs in, it will start up. I've got one cheap one on the outside here that will filter the air as it's coming through. It also stops dust from settling inside, which is handy. Then I've got this reusable one that goes in the other side. And then to pre-filter the air before it hits that reusable one, I've got this other cheap one. It slips in. Like so. To run the fan, I've got it plugged into a remote control outlet. I can turn it on anywhere in the room. And as you can hear, it's not that loud. It's pretty good, actually. It's better than I thought it would be. Even though the remote control does make it a lot more convenient to turn on rather than, say, go over and flick on a switch, ideally I prefer if it came on with a tool, ran for about 10 minutes, and then turned itself off. That way I wouldn't have to remember to bring this thing out every time I came. Winter would probably kill the battery in this fairly quickly. So maybe that's an upcoming project that I'll get into at some point. Anyway, thanks for watching, and see you next time. If you like longer, more detailed videos like this one, check out my other YouTube channel. Also, for more complete details on this and hundreds of other projects, visit my website, ibuildit.ca.